Hi guys, this is Tony here from Metal Ruse. You're about to sit down and enjoy an interview I just did um, over there. And so do like and subscribe so you can get all this straight into your streaming and into your consciousness as soon as it arrives. So enjoy the interview, and I will. Over to you, Tony. Oh, well, look, thanks for coming on and talking about your
Pleasure.
brilliant band, Fall and Resist, as new EP.
Yeah, absolutely. We do. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a bit of a long and hard slog, this one, um, because we did it primarily by ourselves. So I think when you record with other people, you tend to sort of go the cheaper option of just like spending a day on a certain thing, or
Mm.
you know, if you're going to do vocals, particularly, when you're doing 4 tracks, you might just spend one day tracking, and then one other day just fixing up the bits and pieces, and then that's it. But this was literally me doing the vocals here, and um I would listen to it for a month and go, yeah, I just don't buy it. And then, and then redo them again. And then, yeah, I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. It's not quite there. So it was, it's good and it's bad, because I think, and not to get too philosophical too
Mm.
early, I think art, is never, I think it was Leonardo da Vinci that said this, you're never really finished. It's just merely abandoned. You kind of get to the
Oh,
stage where you just
yeah.
have to let it go. And finding that spot or that space was hard. It was hard because you constantly think, I could do this better, or I could,
Mm.
make it sound fuller, or I could, do something with it. So yeah, I mean, popping into a bit of a tirade, you just only just really mentioned it, but that's yeah, I suppose it's been on my mind for a few months.
Well, I mean, and that's you hit that. I've talked to so many people to say the same thing. Like we're all creative people, us here, right? And I'm a
Mm,
painter myself, and I spend, I'll go and I'll look at a painting like the same with music, and I'll be like, oh my God, I could go back and just put another line there. I have to let it
yeah.
go, or I can't look at it anymore because it's really annoying me, right? And and I think that having that um, freedom that you gave yourself on this EP is a two-edged sword, like you said. Like,
Mm,
you go, wow, I'm going to make the most creative piece of music I've ever done in my life,
mm.
or I'm going to have a nervous breakdown at this little beep in the background that I didn't quite want. You know,
Yeah, that's right. Yes. Yeah. I think the other problem that you can really get, yeah, or the other trap that I tend to get into, and I know a lot of people like this when it comes to creative pursuits, is that creativity, um, think, pushing creativity in these sorts of areas can sometimes and very quickly turn into work. Um,
mm,
and you sort of you find yourself you, making spreadsheets and ticking stuff off, what parts have been done, what parts haven't been done, and sort of this sort of flow state, or you get a whiteboard and you start writing all the things that need to be done or whatever, and it does kill it. I mean, it sort of corporatizes what's going to be a what was originally intended to be this sort of really great creative thing. And like, we're not signed. We don't have someone knocking down the door saying, can
mm,
you need to get that track out now and it
yeah,
needs
yeah,
to sell, and we don't have that. So because we don't have that, it's kind of nice to embrace the purity of being able to be as creative as you want, but without it moving into work too far. Because once it does that, then the joy sort of starts to leave, and yeah, like you're saying, you just end up with too much frustration and burnout.
yeah. And
So,
you can hear it. You can hear it. There are bands in music. Not
oh yeah,
your EP doesn't have that, but when you hear albums
thank
where
you. I'm glad.
it doesn't. I didn't. I would have a clue about that. To be honestly,
Yeah,
listening to,
good.
because some you can listen to, and go, oh, they really, they really are. They're really struggling
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Whereas in a night, what am I to say? I'm not a musician like as such. I can't say. But when I do hear it, I go, yeah, you can hear that they're not really there. They're phoning it in, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Some of the big bands have been doing that a lot recently. That's why I really love the underground scene. The Australian underground scene, particularly, is so wonderful at the moment. It's so rich.
Yes, yeah.
It's
It
so
is.
rich. It's ridiculous. It's the most
Yeah.
untapped I've ever seen it. It's just
Oh,
unbelievable.
absolutely. And I've said this for a really long time. in terms of sort of the wave of Australian heavy metal. And I think unfortunately it sort of does make waves outside. I mean, there's so many bands that I know that tour Europe and
Mm.
Asia and in America and things like that, and they are terrific Aussie bands, and they come back and you sort of talk to people about it, and they're like, who are you talking about? And it's like, man, they toured the
Yeah.
world. And it's like, yeah, but who are you talking about? And
Yeah.
I think this is symptomatic of a lot of things. I mean, we could philosophically talk about
Mm.
sort of the movement away from pubs and sort of towards pokies and all these sorts of things, and how that kind of kills the sort
Oh,
of music
agree.
scene.
Yes.
But I think, when it comes to particularly like when you're talking about the Australian underground, um, a lot of the time the focus isn't about let's be the biggest and best band in the world. It's actually about playing some tunes to your friends and having them, go, man, that was awesome. What were you feeling when you did that? Or, and when I get off stage, like the thing that I primarily get is, dude, your vocals. I just felt something there. I
Mm.
felt what you were feeling when you wrote that and when you were expressing that. And that to me is probably the sort of highest compliment. Like I sort of go, well, that's it. I mean, we're sort of carrying on this, particularly when we're in Australia, we're carrying on this sort of indigenous tradition of um, telling story through song,
Mm.
which is something that's been part of sort of, indigenous culture for, you know, 60,000 years. So when we get out, this is very much what we're sort of sitting on, is this idea of telling story through song. And yeah, if that touches the emotions of people and they can come up and be brave enough to say, I felt that, I think that's huge,
Oh
to
man,
me.
what a wonderful thing to feel like. And I think
Yeah.
you've nailed that so succinctly, mate. Like it's um you know, whatever whatever direction you go in this rich underground scene that we have in this country, wherever you go, this doesn't seem, and this is from me, and I've been around a lot of the bands, I don't get the ego. You know what I
No,
mean? I don't
no.
feel that.
Yeah.
You get six bands on a stage, and often they just all want to be with each other and play. There's none
Yeah.
of that. I want to be number one on a headline. It's like
Yeah.
let's just play. It doesn't matter where we come in, right? We're going to just play and have fun.
Yeah, that's so true. And I think the lack of ego thing, I do think it has a little bit to do with the fact that, I was talking to one of our promoters, Michael, about this, and he was saying, we're just all nerds, we're
Yeah, it's
just we're
true.
just all a pack of nerds. And it's like it's so true, I often I think to myself, it's like in the middle of the show we could probably just, go down in the mosh pit and play some Dungeons and Dragons, and no one would be upset. They would just be like,
No,
"Yeah, I'll join in on that.
yeah.
Let's do this." And it's just. But I guess that's the sort of community that we're in. I
Mm,
think everyone just enjoys this sort of stuff. But to me, it's like watching a horror movie or something
mm.
like that. It's like it doesn't mean you want to go out and bash people or
No,
stab them or anything like
no,
that. It just means that you enjoy that genre, right?
yeah.
And that's the one thing we all seem to have in common. And yeah, we can have discerning tastes. I mean, there's some places that we play where you get a little bit of elitism and
Mm.
some other bits and pieces. I remember once there's a joke I usually say on stage because we very much marry comedy with sort of serious metal at the same
Yes,
time.
love it.
We're very much who we are on stage, I suppose.
Mm.
And one of my favorite jokes to say when we're sort of playing to more of a newer crowd that hasn't really seen us before is I'll get on the microphone and say, "It's okay, we're not shit." And and sometimes people will laugh, and other times people are like, "Oh, I'm not so sure yet. I'll keep judging you." But this one heckle turned to me one time that I did it, and he says, "Oh, you're confident." which which I just went, oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. But there is a little bit of a gatekeeping element sometimes. You
I
have to
must
sort of
admit, I'm
prove
guilty of that. I'm
yourself.
sometimes guilty of
Yeah, yeah.
gatekeeping.
Well, you kind of have to, yeah, you have to prove yourself a little bit in some of these areas. If
Mm,
if it's a venue you haven't played before in a space that you haven't played before. I mean, we've played a fair bit, but a lot of people don't know us. So when we play somewhere new and with bands that we don't normally team with. Like we might know the members and have bumped into each other, but we've never played a show before. But let's get together and let's play a show. And you sort of get the colliding of fans, our fans, and then whatever
mm,
the other groups are. And yeah, you sometimes get that, but I've never had the, I don't know whether people are just polite or what, but I've never had the situation where I've got off and someone's turned around and said, "Yeah, oh, that was kind of shit, mate. I
Yeah.
wasn't, I'm not a fan." Like I haven't really had that. And I've never really had a lackluster response either. Like I've never really had, "Yeah, no, it was good." That sort of patronizing. It's never come out like that. It's always either I really liked the vocals, really
Yeah.
thought the music was well structured or whatever, and then people just like swoon over Ben, and he's drumming, which
Yes.
is
Well,
he's insane.
he is. I was gonna come to that. Yeah, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that is
Oh,
the
go
case.
ahead. Yeah,
But where you're right there, because like when you talk about no bad like bad responses, it's because we all appreciate, I genuinely appreciate, like you said, we're all nerds, right? So I mean,
yeah,
I'll stand at the stage. I'm as a bass player. I'll sit there and watch bass players, and I'll nerd out for a moment. I'll be, oh my god,
yes,
how's he playing that, right? Or well, that's really cool. And then there are times when I just want to get into the mosh and just get a neck ache and be happy with it, right?
yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? But
yeah. Oh,
I've never
100%.
been to a gig where, apart from the idiots that get drunk and might chuck a few fists in the back, no one
Yeah,
really
yeah.
gets on. No one's, there's no negativity.
No,
No
no.
negativity.
It's actually usually quite good. I usually when we're talking to people, because you go to work and people
Mm,
hear about this. I mean, I'm an academic by
mm.
trade, so I go off to work and I'm lecturing and things like that. And every now and then, I'll get a student in my first class will turn around and go, "Holy crap, you're Frosty from Fall and Resist," and I'll be like, "Yeah, yeah, I am."
Yeah.
But when I'm here, I'm not that
I'm
guy.
Mr. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's the point I was trying to make with that. But this sort of because you were talking about,
I was
I've
talking
lost
about,
it now.
yeah. So I was talking about
You,
how the fact you're all just nerdy. We just all want to watch it and have
yeah,
our own
yeah.
moments. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've lost it. It'll come back to
It will
me.
come.
It's sure. I really should take notes as I'm doing these things, so I can remember. But yeah,
That's all
there
right.
was some point. But yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, that's okay because that's what conversation's about. And we're of
yeah, that's it.
and
Yeah.
we are of a certain age where these conversations will
Well,
sometimes disappear.
well, yeah. Like sometimes when we're asked to headline and we're not getting on stage until like 11:15, it's like, oh
Oh,
man, it's gonna be a rough week.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah. It's. I mean,
just
I'm on the wrong side of 50, and you feel that. You go, oh, what my band? The band I want to watch is on at one. What?
No, I
Like,
know, I know, I know. Can we just normalize afternoon sessions? Like, can we just normalize this now? Afternoon gigs. Like, if I can get home at like 9 o'clock and get into bed a half hour later, that's a bloody good
oh,
night.
how good is that? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's brilliant.
I could talk. I very much. I am very, very in that same vein. But the new,
Uh,
we better talk about the new EP. Okay, the new EP. When is the new
mm.
EP out?
It
Frosty?
was come out last week on the
Oh gosh, I thought it
Tuesday
was
on
next week.
platforms.
Okay.
No, no, no. We did mess with dates a little bit, but it came out on the
Ah,
platforms and everything, and then Bandcamp was late for some
as
strange reason.
always,
We'd set it up and there was some mess up, but it's all out and ready to go now. So yeah, 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 and we've hit a lot of really great reviews and a couple of really interesting ones. And they were a couple of reviewers just it wasn't for them, and this is the first time that we've actually received, I wouldn't say they were necessarily negative. They just said it
mm,
wasn't our cup of tea, or it wasn't they need to go back to the drawing board, that sort of thing. It's like,
mm,
yeah, it's a good attempt, but it's not really what we're going for. And I said to the boys, I said, we've made it, man. We've made it. I said, there's not one band that I know that gets 100% good reviews.
no,
Like every band that I know that is worth their salt gets at least someone saying it's not my cup of tea, right? So I kind of wore it as a bit of a badge. I was really happy about it because I was like, yeah, this is great. This is finally, because in all of the releases before, they were just singing praises all the time. And this one, though, seems to have attracted more reviews, which was interesting.
brilliant.
But also, a few of the ones where there was questioning about that. But a lot of the reviews very much noticed the difference in vocals, which was a real plus. I
Mm.
think, moving to five people in the band is something we've wanted to do for a long time.
And you can hear it in
Um,
the EP. You can hear it.
yeah, and I
Mm,
think. it was more about choices, like, but when you play guitar and you sing at the same time, you write the lyrics in a way that there are certain anchors.
Mm,
So you just try to make your life easier, really.
mm.
But this was a hell of a lot more freeing. I didn't have to.
Isn't it
I could
fantastic?
just go in with whatever the song, would
Mm.
require and just go with it. So that was really good. The other thing is a lot of people have said the production is good, which I'm really happy about because this is the first one that I've mixed. It was, we didn't actually do it outside this time. So,
And I was going to say that the production on this is really first class. It has
oh,
a
thank you
real,
very much.
yeah, it has a real expensive feel.
Oh, great.
Like it's that you could that viscous. It's like it's got a really nice texture without it being overly produced.
Oh, thanks so much. Because I was trying to balance this idea of rawness, but also
Mm,
with a modern gritty feel. I really didn't want to have it too stripped down.
mm,
Like I quite like bands that have the stripped down sort of sound, like particularly the metalcore bands. When we're talking about people like August Burns Red and stuff like
mm.
that. So I quite strip back, and there's not much. I mean, particularly in the early stuff, and I do really like that sort of production. I just don't know that it sits well with Fall and Resist. I think Fall and Resist has more of a sort of fuller flavor to it. Do you know what I mean?
No,
So
yes.
yeah, so as
Mm.
I was mixing it, I started out with this really stripped back sort of feel and sort of went, oh, I'm not so sure. So I mean, I asked a lot of people and had a lot of conversations, went down a whole heap of rabbit holes on YouTube and everything. And look, honestly, I have to say I don't enjoy the process. It's not a fun thing. Like it is actually really irritating
Yeah.
because you spend a lot of time just critiquing. And that's all you do. Like you just say, and then you start to doubt, so geez, maybe I just didn't write the song right, or maybe
And
um,
did you find yourself critiquing because you felt you had to as well?
oh,
Were there moments where you're
absolutely.
like, you've laid this track down and you think, my God, this is a fucking banger. And then you got
Mm,
to go,
mm.
but now I should really listen to it and see if there's anything could do, even though you know in your heart that's probably done.
Well, I mean that's a quite an interesting process for me because I mean I'm the primary writer. I mean the guys will throw in some bits and pieces every now and then. Brendan will, might get a riff, he'll record it and send it to me. I'll say, oh, cool, and I kind of grab it and look at it at all angles and change some bits and pieces or whatever. Ben, I try to write as close to sort of Ben's style as possible, but he adds and he changes and he takes back and he moves around. But he does say to me, "You make it really easy for me because I can see what it is you're trying to accomplish, and I can just complement that, right?"
Mm,
So I feel an enormous responsibility in that, to make sure I write stuff that makes the guy shine. Like particularly like Rory, I think of a lot because his playing style and he's sort of the way he goes about playing bass is really unique and it's quite different to a lot of
it
other
is.
people. But at the same time, he's really shy with it and he's really, he doesn't like to be in the limelight. I'm like, dude, we should be showcasing you. So, there's a couple of parts in the EP that I've written, so he could really stand out, right?
Mm,
Um, so I guess what I end up doing when I listen to the tracks is I sort of have the guys' faces in my mind as I'm listening to them, thinking about is this something they'll enjoy? So I'll write a song and the song might fall out quite quickly. It might be a week and it's pretty much done, dusted, ready to go. But I'll listen to it for a few months, and if a riff annoys me, a beat's no good, or a bass line's kind of haphazard or not good enough, or a vocal line, I'll just go and change it. But I'll always give it that time.
mm.
I don't actually mind that process. Like that part of it's actually fine. I feel like and being an academic, I do a lot of writing. It feels like an essay to me. It's kind of like,
Mm.
does it comprehensively communicate what I'm trying to say? And if it does, then great. But if there's sections where I go, it's not quite hitting exactly what I wanted it to do, I'll go back and do it again. That part's fine. But when I'm saying, is that snare any good?
Yeah,
That part is
yeah,
infuriating and
and
I
that's
hate it. And, and it's the worst. It's the worst thing that I think anybody can do. And I think when you go up to the guys and you're like, what do you guys think? I've worked on this for months. What do you think of the mix? Da da da. And they turn around and they say, yeah, that's all right. Like, I prefer, this one that. Thelmaco did, or
Yeah.
this one that they did a Danger Tone, or this one they did. It's like, oh God, I'm not like any of those guys though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not my profession. So it's a hard thing. That part I find difficult, but the writing itself, I quite enjoy that part. I like being really creative, and as you probably heard in the EP,
Mm.
there's a few sections where I make it a little bit challenging for people who are listening.
Yes.
I make them rethink what we sort of are doing for metal. I had a lot of messages on along those lines where they said,
Mm.
"Oh, thank you for pushing the boundaries a little bit," and I was like, "Oh, great."
But again, honestly, that's exactly I'm sitting. I can listen to you talk all day. It's fantastic. What genuinely mean is that is exactly right. It boundary pushing the underground scene, and we've talked about this before how wonderful and lush the underground scene is. But what's
Mm,
wonderful about it is that bands like yours, Fall to Resist and Resist, can do that. They
yeah,
they don't have some corporate shield over their shoulder going, no, that's not PC, or that's not going to sell, or that.
yeah,
You can just go, this is truly, it's like this real spirit of punk almost. I can do and say what is important to me. Like
mm,
I made a note here in red pencils. I always make special notes in red pencil. Like it's always that's where I need to go. Um, is is that you haven't lost your emotional edge in this EP, because I think
yeah,
the previous EPs and the album, they've got a real emotional pull, ebb and flow.
yeah, yeah.
And you haven't changed that here. In fact, if anything, you've probably even sort of added to it.
Yeah, and I think thanks for noticing because it's one of those things. I think one of the motivations for this release in comparison to the other ones were very much a marriage of sort of anger and sadness at the same time, and that's the sort of sweet spot that I like to explore. And the
Mm.
first EP very much did that. The album really pushed that quite far, but the EP that came after the album, it was like, well, we wanted to get a little bit of sort of fast, speedy sort of aggression, some sort of thrash elements in there.
Had a sense of youthfulness in it, didn't it? It
Yeah,
really
it
felt
did.
quite
Yeah,
young. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and sort of getting back to what it was like to be 15 and
Oh,
discovering Slayer for the first
wonderful.
time. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Yeah,
Yeah.
which was I was going for a very nostalgic feel, whereas this more recent one, I think one of the motivations was a little bit of anxiety, a little bit of disgust, a little bit of horror to it. And I think, this is really present in some of the lyrics, the sort of grotesqueries of it all. So
Mm.
in Living the Lie, one of the lines that I've written that I quite embody quite well is this idea of what I say is an adolescent whine doled out time after time. This idea that I'm just sort
Oh,
of
it's a lovely
screaming
line.
into nothing, and it's meaningless, but it's also ugly,
Mm.
right? And this sort of ugliness was really what I wanted to move towards more and sort of explore this idea of the ugliness. So, at the end of Moments of Clarity, there's this, there's a play on 3 4 4 4 time at the same time, and just this really clouded, horrible sort of crescendo of sound that sort of
Yes.
turns into a wall.
It's like
Yeah, and
cacophony. Yeah.
yeah, and the idea behind that was that how uncomfortable can I make you before you feel like you need to hit fast forward,
Yeah.
right?
Oh.
And I kept listening to it, and I kept saying to myself, where do I feel the urge? Where do I feel the urge to hit fast forward? And I
Yeah.
stopped it right then. And it was odd because I stopped it before the last note, so it actually finishes on the three, not the
Which is
four.
also really, it's almost
Jarring.
jarring. I was sitting there listening to it,
Yeah.
and I went like, you do. You go, hang on, doesn't I don't feel reprise. It's not
It's
finished.
yes, and that's the thing. I'm deliberately trying to leave you with this awkward feeling of this, but this was not finished, you know,
Man,
because it was not because that's the emotion. It hasn't ended.
yeah,
Like you have these moments of clarity, but it hasn't ended, and it's horrible and it's terrible and that's why I say things like clawing at my brain through my skull. Like
mm,
this idea of trying to scratch the itch, but you just can't do it. So yeah, I
brilliant.
really appreciate you bringing that up because it's one of those things that I think sometimes, we put a lot of effort into our lyrics. So I put a lot of efforts into my lyrics, and I try to really communicate very complex emotions and the things that we're sort of dealing with on a daily basis. And sometimes you just feel like, yeah, no one's noticing. It's like, why am I
No,
putting so much
no, we
effort into
are. No,
this,
you are.
But yeah, it seems to be noticed. So
Yeah, because I mean,
yeah,
I'm a wordsmith. I love words. I love them, right? And when people write beautiful, I mean, not beautiful, but I mean, interesting lyrics like
yeah,
that, and
yeah,
beautiful lyrics as well. There's always
yeah,
something because it gives you more. Music is
yes,
ephemeral and can go anywhere and do anything, but the words can be restrictive and difficult to expand open. And if
yeah,
you can do that, like in cogs, I really love cogs in the machine, right? In things
yep,
like that, where you take the English language, something that we all know so well, and you play with it.
yeah,
Most people who listen to music do not know understand music, right? They don't. They
yep,
don't know what 3/4 is. They wouldn't have a clue. They're just there. They're listening to music, but they understand words. And then when
yes.
the words are played around, there's something that just opens up the music even more.
That's so true. That's so true. And I remember this. I often think about it with one of my favorite bands, Insomnium.
Oh,
I
brilliant band.
often, yeah, I often think about it with them because, I mean, the only difference that I try to do between sort of us and them, not that we're that similar. I mean, we have the melodic death metal sort
Mm,
of background, similarity, but that's probably where it ends. But I think, um, like I love his vocals and I think they're
mm.
great, but he doesn't enunciate as well as I'd like. It's not until you've actually read the lyrics that you actually understand what he's saying.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that, oh, we should be able to understand the lyrics because I mean, I do think that brutal death metal has its place and,
Mm.
really low vocals and all absolutely have its place, but I pride myself on you understanding what I'm actually saying. That's what I try to do. I try to keep it as gruff as I can, but
Mm.
for you to actually say, "Oh, I actually got a few words out of that in a couple of sentences, and I kind of know what you're talking about," And then when you have a look at the lyrics, it just fills in the blanks. That's kind of supposed to be the idea,
Yeah.
but it's hard. It's hard because you're using such distortion on your voice. Like you're really trying to push as hard as possible, to sort of give it to this sort of next level of yeah, this guy sounds like a maniac. I wonder
Yeah.
what he
Yeah.
was feeling when he did that. That's where you want to go to. So,
Well, and do you know what? It's very difficult for someone like yourself who's you're not talking about facile in pieces of information. You're not just shouting. You are create telling an emotional
mm,
and well written narrative through the
mm.
story of the song. Because let's be honest,
Yeah,
this is stories. It's how man has
yeah,
always told stories is through song, and
yeah,
you're
yeah,
doing that. And it's very hard to get the mix, like you said, where you want like someone who's never heard the band before to know, wow, look, listen how wonderful this guy is. How what plane is this guy on writing this lyric?
yeah,
But
yeah,
at the same time, you
absolutely.
also want them to go, yes,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
jump around, right?
That's right. Yeah, and you certainly need that sort of entertainment factor in there because I mean, whilst we can talk about art and art is the way it
Mm,
is, and we're trying to move people, we're trying to tap into their emotions. At the same time, there needs to be an element of yeah, that's just cool.
yeah,
There
yeah,
needs to be an
yeah,
element of that's just cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because if you don't have that, then it does get a bit too artsy. People lose interest, and you just feel awkward on stage, sort of just, doling out this stuff. But we're very big on the energy on stage. We very much, and that's one of the things that people say when they come to see us. They say, "Oh my God, the energy is just so huge," and you know, um, got me really excited. And we have a lot of people who have never seen metal before come and see us for the first time or see they'll say this is the first metal bit, but that was amazing. Oh my God, I don't like the music, but holy hell, that was
yeah.
so it's that sort of transference of energy into the crowd, and it makes it a lot easier when the music's really emotionally charged,
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love the give and take. It's
yeah,
why
yeah,
I'm always 16 in here, right?
yeah,
Because
yes,
because the give and take. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
100%,
Genuinely, I think it's the fountain of youth. Um,
yes,
Rock
yeah,
and roll in general, and
yeah,
just being in that small club and the band on the stage, and they're giving out that energy. You're giving out. You've spent. You've given. Let's be honest. I mean, you're bearing your soul to make art. Art is painful,
yeah,
and you're bearing your soul to create art and then being brave enough to take it into the audience, that's another thing, right?
Yeah.
And then we take it on and go, fuck it, this is just, it moves us in a way and then pushes the
Yeah.
energy back onto you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
wonderful give and take. It's the best.
It
It's the
it
best.
is. Yeah. I think it's quite interesting though too, because I think it's one of the last, not that I'm a very aggressive guy. Like
Mm,
I don't feel like I would probably be most people would describe me as quite a gentle
mm,
sort of guy, you know. Particularly that's the sort of father I am.
mm.
But I think heavy metal is one of the last acceptable aggressive bastions. Do you know
Oh,
what I mean?
I
Like
think you're
it's
absolutely correct. Yes.
yeah, like there's not many spaces. I mean, you're short of us starting a fight club, you know, like this. Geez, am I allowed to talk about that? I thought that was the first two rules.
Don't talk about Fight Club.
But yeah, it
Quick
was.
cut.
But you know, it's and whilst I say, you know, whilst sit here and say, you know, I'm quite a gentle guy and I'm not really that aggressive or whatever, there still is a I guess a masculine you know, testosterone filled, you know, desire, you know, this sort of
Yeah, yeah.
primal part of it. And that's not to say that that is exclusively a male thing though
No,
either. Like there's
no.
plenty of women that connect to that sort of idea as well. But I think within our society today, there's not many areas
No.
where we can do that and be like that. So I mean, this is, you know, why guys go off camping or drinking or whatever it is they're
Yeah,
going
or
to
the
do.
football.
And yeah, the footy seems to be really aggressive these days, and it's just yeah, and I think that that's well, what's good about it is that it's quite controlled, it's quite positive. It's something that the crowd is into as well as the
Mm.
people on stage. So you kind of just you know make it work in those
It's a safe
fashions. But
space to let your energy out. I think that's the
it
key, isn't it?
really is. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it really is.
yeah,
Yeah, which and I really appreciate you talking about that sort of bearing of your soul and you know you're writing the things down and sort of having the vulnerability enough to sort of give it out. But there's been a few times before we've gone on stage where I've turned to the guys and I've said I don't know if I can do this particular song because it's too hard for me today. You know,
yeah.
I've just been thinking
Beautiful.
too much about it and
Yep.
you know, can we swap it out? And the guys are always good about it.
Yeah.
Um, but
Beautiful.
it is difficult because yeah, I mean you write about the most intensely upsetting parts of your life, you know.
Yeah.
I mean a lot of the songs I've written about people I've lost. Um,
Oh,
and that's always really
yeah.
hard. Like Cinders is a really difficult one. That's literally about you know, people dying.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hence, you know, fading away like cinders.
Mm.
And it's our most popular song. And every bugger wants
Because
us to play it.
well, you know
Um,
the thing is, before we go, because I'll have to wrap up soon, but what I want to say to you is the reason that is the case, my friend, is that there are several things all human beings will experience universally.
yeah,
Love,
yeah,
life, and
100%.
death, right?
Love, life, and death. That's
Yeah,
correct. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
They're all going to, and so I mean, I can't listen to Cinders that much either because I lost my father last year, and
Oh, I'm
I find,
sorry.
oh, he was an old man, and life is life. It is. Thank you, though.
Yeah,
But you you hear that, and you do, you just go, no, not today.
yeah,
And I
100%.
understand
Yeah,
exactly where you're coming from. You go,
yeah,
look, you know what, I no, and I think it's
yeah.
brave that you can say, do you know what, boys, we're not doing this.
Yeah, and
We're not doing
the
this.
guys are really the guys are really good with it. You know, they're
That's how they should
yeah,
be. Yeah.
well, yeah. I mean, you know, and we sort of go on the journey together, and I talk to them about what the stuff is about and everything, and you know, sometimes they're like, dude, that's really deep, and you know, other times they're like, I just think the riffs are cool, you know. So you get sort of both. It's like good, that's fine, you know, we'll work with that as well. So.
Ah, look, it's been I could talk to you all night, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks,
Really
Kenny.
have. Hopefully we'll
Yeah.
see you live sometime soon.
Yeah,
Um,
so if any of the fans are listening,
mm,
just as a bit of an update, Ben's is doing a lot better.
good.
He's actually got a couple of foot problem now. So he's trying to heal. So it's moves from one to the other. But you know, I thought it was really interesting because about a week ago he took a photo of his electronic kit with just the sticks and the headphones sitting on it and didn't write anything. Just sent us the photo and we
Oh,
went, what does this mean, mate? What does
are
this
you?
mean? And
Yeah,
he
are
just
you
ghosted
leaving?
us. He just ghosted us. But I think, I think a lot of it too is a bit of a mental game as well. Like he has to have the sort of mental energy to be able to add this
Of
in, because
course, man. Of course.
playing in the band is not
No.
he's not just keeping 4/4. He's
No, he's a
he's
very,
going
very
pretty
good
hard.
drummer. Yeah, he's a very
Yeah, he
technical
is.
drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully sooner rather than later, but I'm being cautious with that at the same time
Perfectly
because it'll
fine.
take us some time.
I'm
So
sure we
yeah.
can wait. I'm sure we can wait. But again, thank you for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I have loved every minute of it. Your EP is wonderful,
Oh,
and
thank
it's a
you.
real crowning joy of the underground scene here in Australia. And I think anyone watching this overseas needs to get onto it because I think it will blow your mind. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And thanks for having me here. I really liked it. I had great times.
Yeah, yeah,
Fantastic fun.
yeah. Same
Yeah.
here. Same here. I haven't laughed this much in ages. It's great.
Good. Good.
Also, it's also lovely just to talk about art and not feel embarrassed to talk about
Yeah.
art, because
Yeah.
sometimes we with long hairs are not meant to do that, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, it's not that touchy feely. It's like
Yeah.
it's pretty touchy feely, man. It's pretty touchy feely.
I don't
But
mind that. I love it. I
no,
absolutely
me
love
neither.
it. Tap into it more often
Yeah,
for me, in my opinion. But anyway, thank you for
absolutely.
coming on. Enjoy the rest of your night, and we'll
Will do.
catch
You
up
too.
soon. All right.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Catch ya.
Bye, mate. Bye, mate.
Bye.